YouTube world, right? So I want us to talk about how I went about building this swamp, right? So we got a saltwater tank, and the only filtration it has is the rock itself and the protein skimmer. Got a lot of water movement in there, definitely keeping everything nice and filtered. That rock and that protein skimmer parameters are actually great, no lie. Of course, now livestock is only like one fish. It's another fish, but he's always in the hole. And then, yeah, I mean, that's all we really got. So of course, there's not a really big livestock in there, but parameters are great. The swamp is so I can put more livestock. So let's talk about how we went ahead and built the swamp. Very cool. So I just wanted to talk about how I made this, because if some people see this and they'll be like, oh, this is cool. Made a tank out of, you know, plexiglass and all this good stuff. So I just wanted to talk about it. If you want to build a tank inside the stand itself, put the silicone on the edges all the way across and down, and the base and everything, and you know what I'm saying, all the way across, and put your panels in, floor panels and the floor panel and everything in, and let the outside cure first. Basically, the reason why that is because, like, say you did the inside too, the silicone on the inside as well, I believe that against the wood would not dry, cure, because there's no air getting to it anymore. Alright? The second step is, when you do get ready to do the inside, to do it all at once as well, because when your silicone touches already cured silicone, so you got new silicone going on top of cured silicone, it doesn't have a good bond. So you want to do it all at once so it all bonds together, the silicone. Right. Yeah. So this is all plexiglass. It's 22 inches across, 15 inches wide, and 15.5 inches tall. I made sure that all my baffles are pretty dang lowered in the tank itself, and that's just because when you build it into the tank, you can't really, or you build it into the stand itself, you can't really change it. I mean, you could, but you have to like take it apart. So you want to definitely account for a power outage, for the water going to drain down, which on a 40-gallon tank won't be that much. So as you can see, even the return is sitting lower than the tank itself, and it's going to sit at the 13-inch mark. So that gives you about 2.5 inches, which is about 4+ gallons. That's almost a whole bucket, which was more than enough to hold the extra space in case of a power outage. Definitely want to account for that. Next thing was working with plexiglass. Silicone don't like to stick to it. So you got a nice sheet of plexiglass like this, you put silicone on it, put your other pieces, and then you put your other piece of plexiglass on it, and then 48 hours later, you like, came right off. You're like, dang it. I mean, you can take your finger, there's enough force, it just peels right off. So I recommend to sand all your edges. Now this one I sanded a little bit too far out, so excuse my handiwork, and I used permanent marker, dang it. But yeah, so I recommend sanding all your edges. So the whole floor is pretty much sanded. Here is sanded, as you can see this baffle connects to right here. That's sanded, that's sanded. I mean, all sanded where the baffles connect to and where it connects to the wall. And then of course I sanded all of this as well down here. 90 degrees turn all the way across. So when I put that silicone in there, it's going to have a really good place to stick. Also in here I sanded really nice, as you can see, it's nice and scratched. And yeah, so this right there, when you sand it and you connect it to it, I promise you that is a very, very, very strong hold. It won't peel off. Honestly, if I did not sand it and what I'm doing right now, it would probably just come apart. So it's very, very, very strong. Alright, so let's talk about measurements. So this baffle right here sits about 1 inch down. So this sits at about the, I want to say this sits about maybe at 15 inches. Maybe a little lower than 15 inches. This whole compartment right here. But this I know for a fact sits 1 inch down. So this sits at 14.5 inches. This is only 0.75 of an inch down. So it's a little bit taller than that baffle. And then of course this is my sock tray. Talk about that in a few. And then it goes all the way down, it runs all the way down, and then it goes down here. Right here we're going to have a protein skimmer and a heater and all the good stuff. and then it's going to go over here into the refugium area, maybe have a reactor, and then it's going to flow into here with the return. Now the return is a little bit bigger because I wanted to make sure it has enough water in case something happens, and you know, it keeps pumping water as water evaporates and it has water, right? But instead of making it all the way across, right, I made it exactly 2 gallons big, because the reason why for that is because as water evaporates, the first place the level drops is in the return. So the water will drop here first, and because this is such a small area, it will notice the water dropping faster, and it will trigger the sensor. So you only have maybe a fluctuation of maybe, you know, in here maybe of 1 liter before the trigger is sensed, and it's like, oh, we need to put 1 liter back in, instead of having it all the way across and it's maybe doing 2 liters or 3 liters before that sensor is tripped. So I think that's a good idea. And then, yep, that's where my light goes. I got an LED light bulb for it. And then let's talk about this. So basically, to make all of this, including this and everything, I used the dremel, even to cut the plexiglass, even this thick sheet right here. So this thick sheet is a 0.22, also the front, and that's just because it's thicker and it won't flex for the viewing panel. Everything was cut with a reinforced blade for a dremel. This right here is a food container. I bought 2 just in case I messed up the first one. So that's what it looks like. It's pretty neat. And yeah. And basically, instead of a sock, I use this, and then all you have to do is buy this. I call it fiber floss, and it's like $2-3 at Walmart for a big bag. And here, basically, all I did is I drilled holes in the bottom with this, and I'm going to put the fiber floss in here. And then, of course, you want to make sure you put a hole in here so the water can get through it. Alright. And then I put a big thing of silicone around it, because I thought, like, why are we going to seal it off when we can actually put like chemicals in here, like a bag of carbon or some type of chemicals, right? So I put a big bead of silicone on this alone and let it dry just like this, and now it's acting like a gasket. And I made sure the silicone bead is a little bit bigger than the parameter of the square itself. And then I made sure I put some brackets in there so I don't push it down too far. It's just made out of silicone. And basically you just make sure you kind of line it up here. It's kind of hard to do with one hand when you're working with the pound. And you just push it down, and it goes down. And as you can see, it's a crack, you know, it's like trying to rip off the silicone. But I made sure I sanded all that stuff around, because I put a sheet of plexiglass around the tub itself. And then I sanded that plexiglass, of course, and that silicone stuck to it. So yeah, so you always want to make sure your second baffle from your sock filter is a little bit higher, just because it's going to run over and it's going to hit that baffle. You don't want it actually going over, you want it to go in here. So you want it to be a little bit higher. This is why this is only 0.75 down and this is 1 inch down. So the return, so the overflow box will fall into here. Basically the hose will just go right into here, and the water will overflow and go straight into a filter flow. It will collect food and whatnot, and basically every day or every 2-3 days, you know, definitely every week, just take out the filter floss. Easy, just take out the container itself, water keeps flowing, and put new filter floss in it. I mean, it's too easy, you know? It's too easy, good stuff. And then carbon, you know, if it's good for 2 weeks, you know, all you have to do is slowly pull it out. You know, I would recommend turning off the flow so you're not working against the water, but it does pull out. You gotta work with it. It's all good to go. Just take out your carbon and then put new carbon in. Alright, shit. But yeah, I like it a lot. All the way to the top is about 22 gallons to the rim, so you know, definitely not running all the way to the rim, because then it's going to be overflowing. But to the 13-inch mark here, it is 18 gallons. So this is basically an 18-gallon swamp. And when you're working with a refugium, you want definitely, I believe it was 10% of the volume of the display, and this is almost 50% because it's 18 gallons. This is a 40-gallon cube, so it's definitely 40% of the volume of the display. So it's going to get some awesome filtration. I want a very low maintenance tank. It's going to put some algae in there, different types of algae, and have it all good and go. Yeah, I think I talked about everything. So basically, let me continue this. This is 1 inch down. This is 0.75 down. This is actually sitting at 13.5 inches. So from the floor up is 13.5 inches, and this is 13 inches from the floor. So it all just kind of rolls down like a wave, like a waterfall motion into the return chamber. And then return chamber pushes it right back up. Hell yeah. Any questions? So definitely remember, when working with plexiglass, I recommend sanding the sides and using a whole lot of silicone. The more the better. This is why it looks like a hot mess. I probably didn't talk about that yet, but yes, use the more silicone the better. And just let it cure and stuff, and definitely let it cure for a week before actually using it, because the amount of silicone you're using. So plexiglass, sanding it, silicone will stick to it very well. Definitely make sure you check all your measurements for overflowing in case of power outage, so because it's built with inside the stand, it's not so easily to take apart. And yeah, this is a really cool idea from the dollar store. Instead of buying socks or having to wash them and replacing them, this is just a quick, very cheap and efficient, I believe, much quicker. Well, YouTube, that's about all. If you have any questions, I definitely will give you answers best I can. And let's find an enemy. Anatomy loves to move. So his pass is basically like this, and he is alright. He is basically, I think he's trying to clean himself off. There's a wave maker pushing it into the cave, and he's in the volcano. He's trying to clean himself off because he had too much brine shrimp. Brine shrimp. But alright, YouTube, that was the swamp. Definitely let me know what you guys think, and I wish you all an awesome night. Y'all be good. Laters.